Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins here with Ball Sports, and I wanted to talk a little bit about hip hop and Iggy Azalea, this respected, infamous white female rapper who's just kind of emerged on the scene and kind of taken over. And to talk about this, I got my main man, a guy that I just respect so much, Vigilante, aka Roger Suggs, out of Kansas City. First of all, I want to ask my brother, how you doing today, man?
Doing pretty good, man. I can't complain, man. Just everyday struggle, everyday hustle.
All right, I love it. I love it. And you have to excuse me. I got a little distracted. I had to. I was on Bossip's website. They started auto playing this video with Lee Daniels in it, and who created that show Empire. And I
Yeah,
said, okay, I hear his voice in the background. Why is his voice on my computer? So I had to go shut that off. Have you checked out Empire, by the way?
I refuse to watch it.
Mm.
I refuse to watch it.
Why won't you watch it?
Well, I just looking at the different things I see about these type of shows, it's like it can't show us no quality shows. Not saying the show can't be, but look, it feeds into what the stereotypes of what people think we are. Of course, you got the movie, the other show by 50 called Power. I just think that when they show up, they got to show us in this way. I'm not saying that there ain't a cost worthy reason not to do it. But to me, it's the typical things, and a lot of our blacks I see on Facebook and Twitter, they're excited about the show. They're talking good things about it. But I'm just sick of these type of shows that, to me, never have some real solutions, and they use a lot of ratchetness in there to drive these shows by our top actors and actors. So for me, it was a show that I'm not interested in. Maybe down the road I might peep it out, but it's like I've seen this before. So I'd rather see Wire. To me, that's more realistic.
Well, I can't help but to agree with you on that. I personally, I think more power to Terrence Howard, to Roger P. Henson, Lee Daniels, all those people who are getting money from Fox. Rupert Murdoch, one of the most racist men on the planet, but they getting their Rupert Murdoch money. God bless them. But what's unfortunate is that you have a lot of black people who really think if you get money, then what you're doing is okay. Like, oh, well, he getting money. Why are you hating on somebody getting money? Well, because he's taking money from a effing racist, man. Like Rupert Murdoch he's called you a nigga in about 10,000 different languages, but yet you still ready to line up and beg for this man's money, and it's crazy to me. I mean, that just shows how enslaved we are. How prepackaged we are. We will let a man like Murdoch promote some of the most stereotypical images imaginable, and it's okay because we getting money, right? I mean, and I think that weak mentality, that's what's holding our people back. That's what's keeping us from advancing. And what's interesting is if you look at the history, and I don't mean to go into a distraction with Empire because we're actually here to talk about something else, but if you really study, people should study history and look at how the power of the white man has conquered people of color, not just black people, but Native Americans and Mexicans as well. And one of the things that always kind of came up was you always had some people in that colored community where they felt that it was okay to take whatever scraps they could get because they were getting paid or whatever. And even in the Native American tribes, there were people who said, we're not going to sell our land just because they're offering us money. There are things about our people that are sacred and should be protected. And so you had leaders like Sitting Bull and guys like that who said, no, I don't want his money because he's a liar, he's a bigot, he doesn't respect you, he hates you. You don't take money from somebody like that, right? So, maybe that's what we need. We need guys like you, the Sitting Bulls of our community, who will just say no. Like I don't, not all money is good money. Guys like yourself, I put Immortal Technique in that category. Just some leading artists like you who are doing that thing. So I didn't mean to go off into a distraction with Empire, but I can
That's real
just,
talk, though.
but right, I can just say just straight up, if that show was about intelligent black people doing intelligent, productive things, building good families, it wouldn't have got green lighted. They said, look, we will only let black people come on the Fox network if you act like a pack of niggas. If you act like niggas,
Yeah,
then we'll give you a show, we will give you money, we will make you rich beyond your wildest dreams, and these people, and unfortunately, many of these people get community support from certain people because all they can see is a dollar sign. That's the only language they understand. What do you
And then
think?
you see that while our kids are getting shot down in the street, you know what I'm saying? And while the brutality is going on, it looks like it's almost like population tailoring. Let's put these people out front to show them that hey, everything's cool in Black America. This is some of that stuff. It's just these thugs and stuff. Doing this and stuff. Everything's cool. Look at these shows showing the rich and famous and the music industry. And the music industry has been turned upside down. Hip hop origins was about having a good time and having a message. And that's something that Iggy needed to understand. I'm glad Q-Tip went on and told her about is more than is what you think. But what hip hop has become now is, do what you want to do, make your money, and people hating and they hate. You know what I'm saying? But we're gonna make money. We're gonna make money, and that keeps us in that consumer mentality instead of being owners, owning our music, owning our the distribution and things like that. You think of all the success the music industry has had with blacks. We don't own no distribution channels. We still got the beg to put our projects out, whether it be movies or whatever. So it's a lot of things that we're taught to do, taught to spend money. You see Mayweather showing all this money, doing all these different things, and that see and they follow. And guess what? We lose because everybody ain't living that life. If you got a house on your arm, how about taking that house and making some other houses for people in your family or people in the community? We don't do that. So when you see shows like this, all it does is perpetuates the stereotype, and then people that go and see an everyday black person thinks that they're that person. So it's crazy to me. And like you said, we are so caught up in this. It's like we're in zombie land. Welcome to zombie land. A zombie looks like a human, but it's pale in the face. If you get close to it, it'll bite you. So I'm anti-zombie. I can't be a zombie, man.
All right. Well, fortunately, there's a whole lot of people that are awake, that are fighting this battle with you, and I do consider it to be a battle. There really is a battle for
Yeah.
the minds of our children. This propaganda from these images that's part of the battle. And so, now with that being said, when you talk about corporate money and its ability to really appropriate a culture and influence a people, one of the manifestations of this corporate culture is this rapper from Australia, Iggy Azalea, who has kind of instantly been catapulted to the top, quote unquote, top of hip hop, which I don't consider her to be the top of hip hop. But if you measure it in terms of money and exposure, if you use the measuring sticks given to you by the white man, then she's going to be measured at the top. That's why we have to even not just think about where we stand in the comparison, but we also have to look at whose field are we agreeing to play on, whose measuring sticks are we agreeing to use. If your measuring stick is money and exposure, and whites control money and exposure, then you're almost always going to lose because you have not been properly trained to evaluate the quality of your work or the work of others or the quality of your achievements on factors other than money and exposure, right? So that's why, for example, we'll give we instantly might consider Barack Obama to be one of the greatest black men of all time because he got a bunch of white people to vote for him. I mean, black people voted for him too, but a lot of white people voted for him. Whereas I consider a guy like Malcolm X to be far greater than Barack Obama ever could have been because Malcolm X stood for black people, right?
It is
So with that being said, going back to Iggy Azalea, a lot of artists have an issue with Iggy. They feel that she has been. I think number one, there's always going to be this natural kind of like who the hell she thinks she is, who is this new person. You're going to get that competition. I expected to see that, but what I didn't expect was Iggy's reaction. Is if you compare Iggy to say Eminem, I got a sense that Eminem was always respectful of the art form and where it came from. He was respectful of his predecessors and his elders in the game, and he always showed that appreciation. Iggy seems to be kind of pissing all over everybody, with some of the remarks that she might make, just a little bit careless and reckless. As a hip hop artist, as a respected artist yourself, your work is extraordinary. What do you think about what you've been seeing with Iggy and how she's interacting with other hip hop artists?
well, she's trained to be indifferent about what other black people say. She's indifferent about that. Why? Because she got black people behind her, pushing her and co-signing the things. She was on a caption last year with, I think it was, I want to say Drake, Ti, and some other people saying "me and my niggas." That's what she said on the in the caption. So if nobody's checking her, and now all of a sudden everybody wants to, come after her. Here's the deal: we allow this to happen. We allow this to happen with our own selves and how we disrespect black women and how we portray gun violence. And you know that's put in, to the cities pretty much with drugs and guns. How do we get those drugs? We promote that. So when you get a person like her that's doing it, and she's indifferent because she don't know. And if she do know, she don't care that she knows. Why? Because that's not really enough backlash for anybody powerful. Who holds the cards in hip hop? Who holds the real cards and getting out there to distribution, getting out there to be on the talk shows? Matter of fact, she's a cash cow. Matter of fact, the more defiant she is, the better it's going to be for her brand. It's obvious that they don't care about it because if they did, and plus the right ones ain't speaking out against her. If you get some second tier rapper, or me, I'm lower tier than that, saying something, it don't matter. You get a second tier rapper, it don't matter. The Jay-Z's ain't saying nothing, and other people ain't saying nothing. People, and I got nothing but respect for Russell. What is Russell saying? What is people that got power in hip hop are saying about how she's, portraying and disrespecting some parts of this hip hop? We're quick to get on Nicki, but at the same time, here's another version of Nicki. And the thing is, what do we do about that? Well, you get some. I saw Eve and I forgot the other rapper talking about Iggy the other day.
Oh,
About how she
even
talked.
Jill Scott, they were on Sway in the morning.
Jill
Yeah.
Scott, who I respect, yeah, Jill Scott, and Eve at one time flew down that mentality. Now she's changed her stuff. But what I'm saying is, she is watching what she sees, what she thinks. This the trouble we run in with stereotypes. When people from somewhere else see that this all like Empire and things like that, this all portrayed on TV, they copy it. And then what they do is they get more respect copying this style than a actual rapper that may be black that's doing the same thing. So you like with Eminem, I got respect for Eminem. So you take Eminem, he can do a hip hop song and it get played on the soul station, right? R&B station, right? Hip hop station. But it also get played on the rock station. But if you take a Nas who may do the same song that Eminem does, he'll get played in the urban station. He's not going to be on the rock station. You see what I'm saying? Iggy can put out her music and everybody love it because she's talking like us. She got the, simulated big booty, and so people run after that. And she's looking, it's cool at first, it's cute. It's almost like when a kid cuss, they think it's cute at first until that kid becomes 16 years old and he's jacking his mind. Now it's coming to bite you now. It's coming to bite you now. Now, and she's not even schooled on saying, at least give a quote saying that you feel bad about the situation that's going on with Mike Brown, Eric Gardner. She won't even give a quote. That lets you know how much she don't care or indifference about what goes on in our culture. We watch it all the time. We watch it with Justin. We watch it with Robin Thicke. There's no disrespect to those guys. What I'm saying is they can run and have fun in our culture, but when it hits the fan, they go right back to their culture. And that's what we can't do. When we fill out and do these things, you're still like Tiger Woods. We'll let you know who you are. Don't worry about it. So until we find some power brokers that say they really care, but you know what they're gonna say? Well, she have a right to express herself. She's, everybody's just hating on her. They mad. How come it's reversed racism because she's white going into an all dominant, culture of blacks and Hispanics or whatever in rap, and she's being discriminated against. So she got all the things working in the corner because the right people ain't stood out and said anything about it.
Well, I think that when you look at the minstrel show of a lot of the commercialized hip hop that we see on the radio, I compare it to I say it's a minstrel show because there's certain kinds of music that's really not hip hop anymore. It really is black people behaving in a way that white people think that we behave, right? And you're fulfilling that fantasy. It's almost like somebody telling an Asian person to do karate, even if they don't know karate, or telling them to act like a geisha girl. like whatever they think the stereotype is, right? Well, I think in this case, when you look at the minstrel show of hip hop, what you're seeing is you see this extreme white fascination with the minstrel show. They love to watch it, and they're selling they're selling all these tickets not to black people, they're selling them to white people because they enjoy they just enjoy watching black people act black. There's a fascination with it. No different from how people were fascinated with like mafia movies and and stuff like that. Like oh yeah, we love it when those Italians act like mafia gangsters, right? So what ends up happening, unfortunately, in the gangster analogy is that the people that portray these stereotypical roles end up getting way too much power in the community because that's where all the money's going because they're exporting this bastardized culture to the rest of the world, and it's at the expense of everybody else. And so you see a Iggy Azalea come along in hip hop, and she's been watching the minstrel show. She grew up on it, so she's emulating the minstrel show, and she's carrying this to white people, and they love it. I mean, it's better if I'm white. I'd rather see a white person acting like a nigga than a black person acting like a nigga. Because that's what they are. They act like niggas, basically. I mean, let's just be real. That's what
Yeah.
and they call themselves niggas. Like, and think about that. Think about how sick that is. That we have people that literally make money going in front of white people wearing 50 pounds of gold chains, tattooed up and down, all got gold grill. Like literally, what you're doing is you're getting thugged out. You're putting on a costume, right? You're taking what they've heard, these urban legends about how black people live, and you're putting it on steroids, right? Like I'm the most thugged out nigga that you ever gonna see in your life. And you go in front of a crowd full of white people, they scream and holler and pay you money to behave like a stereotype. And so when Iggy Azalea adopts and appropriates that culture, and she's selling this to a white audience, I don't think she has any sort of vested interest in blackness as a whole. It's like if somebody grows up fascinated with Chinese karate culture, they don't care about trying to be Chinese all the way around. They're just fascinated with Bruce Lee movies, right? So ultimately, what I guess my point is that, I think that we have to really realize that, I don't think there's any evidence or any expectation that an Iggy Azalea is really going to care about or be connected to the black community. I think that artists have to become critical thinkers enough, or those who love hip hop have to learn how to engage in enough critical thinking to realize Iggy Azalea really isn't a rapper in terms of the tradition of what hip hop really means. She's not part of that. She's something else, right? She's a corporate creation, and so this disrespect she has for black people, it's to be expected. I mean, she's not here to be black. Everybody wants to be black until it's time to be black, right? But
Yep.
somehow we act disappointed and surprised if a Michael Brown gets shot and Iggy ain't got nothing to say about it. Iggy don't give a damn about Michael Brown. Iggy don't know nothing about what Michael Brown been through. That's not who she is. That's not where she's from. And so I think that somehow maybe it's a matter of kind of just saying to ourselves, we feel frustrated. We feel like rats in a cage. Who built the cage, and why are we choosing to remain in the cage? Like one example, for example, is this: everybody gets mad when the Grammys pop up, and Iggy and Macklemore get all the Grammys. Well, the Grammys are given out by white people mostly. And they're gonna favor white artists most of the time, and the Grammys ain't really for you. But you somehow have appropriated yourself to this cage. That somehow you define your self-worth based on whether or not you get a Grammy. The smart artists are the ones who break out of the matrix. The ones who say Grammys ain't shit. Oscars ain't shit. That stuff means nothing. And so when you
Nope.
break yourself away from that, then you can focus on doing what you're supposed to do, which is just be an artist. Don't worry about what Iggy's doing and what money she's making. Just do your thing. Instead of sitting around being
Yep.
frustrated and mad and attacking and fighting and all that. What do you think about that?
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I think that it's a monster that we created, and like I say, we choose to stay in that. One thing about hip hop in its purest, it didn't have no conformity. There's no conformity when it comes to hip hop. Hip hop is the only music that it can blend with anything and make it. It's kind of like the black blood gene. Once we mix with you, you're black. So once hip hop mixed with anything is hip hop or it's rap. And what happens is that I think a lot of people do not understand that they controlled this music, the flow of it. When Public Enemy was out, and like I got much respect for NWA, but you gotta be stupid not to think that NWA was not a counter to Public Enemy. You have to be silly to understand how things come out. And I love NWA, but there was a counter. And a lot of people get in, say, well, NWA, they did kick out F the Police, but what did they do after they F the Police? What did they do? That's what I'm talking about. Now,
You,
did it make them millionaires? Because
you know what,
back
man?
then,
I gotta jump in on that because you gonna get a kick out of this. I only had one good conversation with Killer Mike, and Killer Mike's deep with that click, because he rolls with
yeah,
Cube, because I
yeah,
think Ice Cube's on his albums all the time,
yeah,
and Dr. Dre, he did
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
great
yeah,
song "Put the Pressure On" with Ice Cube, and when we
yeah,
brought
yeah,
up
yeah, yeah.
NWA, when we brought up NWA in our conversation, Killer Mike got real defensive, right? But
You
here's
did.
the thing: that was the only area where we had a little bit of a friction or disagreement. Because I love Killer Mike, I much respect for that man.
Yeah.
But
No.
I said, look, as we critique what we're seeing in hip hop and the music that we're seeing in hip hop, we cannot deny the NWA is linked. That's the root. That's where it all kind of began. You know what I mean? That's when the gangster rap kind of. To me, if there was no NWA, there would not be a Lil Wayne and or even Young Thug and all of this. It all links back to the gangster rap stuff, in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, it does. It does. You can give Schoolie D his Schoolie D out of Philadelphia way back in the days in that type of music, early Ice T with Killers. But yeah, NWA once they put that out, we said F the Police and Express Yourself, and the other song came Gangster. It was a culture. It was a culture. They saw that. They saw the drugs, the holes and stuff. But what happened is instead of staying in that box, I mean, getting out that box, they stayed in that box, and then they had the sons and grandsons of this culture to the point now you can't even recognize it anymore. It ain't even gangster anymore. So you had all these people that copy that style, and the industry realized, man, if we do this and put our money into this, then the Public Enemies and the YZs and the Poor Righteous Teachers and the X Clan, they will fade away. And guess what? They fade away.
Yep.
They fade away, and now you see a few of us still there, Lupe and J Cole, and a few of us, and Common. It's few, but they all right here. Like Common put a masterpiece album together last year. Did you hear anything about it? It was a masterpiece. Hear nothing about it. Lucky J. Cole snuck through and sold some stuff. So what happens is the money is in the Young Thug. So what happened is they try to top each other. Now Young Thug and Lil Wayne, and they all beefing now. Lil Wayne sees the light now. He sees what Bird is. Well, I guess better late than never. And they're dressing like, girls. They're doing all these type of things because they're saying, how can I be more wild? We don't ran out of things to do. Ran out of things to do, so you got to do this minstrel stuff. It's the zippity doo dah, zippity day. It's that type of mentality to do that, and we can reach right now. You would think. I remember when LL talked about when Public Enemy came out with "Fight the Power," and LL came out with the album "Walking with a Panther," and he kind of got booed because he was on the cover with the chain, had the nice lady with the panther there, and he got booed in New York because at that time you had the Toronto Brawley case, you had to fight the power with all the police brutality that was going on, and the culture changed because of what was going on. That's when you had a whole lot of people wearing the medallions, the Malcolm X movies, and all these things wearing the Malcolm X because it changed. But look what happened. Right now, we're seeing all this killing going on, all the police brutality, the crimes that happen to blacks, and it ain't changed. There's no songs that really talking about that. See, back then, that lets you know how far we don't fell into the hole. Because when things was changing then, when Public Enemy came out with Fight the Power, you had X Clan, you had all this that everybody had a black power song on the album. If you was a regular album, you had a power song on that album. You had a power song on there. Everybody, even if you was a regular rapper, you put some type of country song on there. Now all this stuff going on, you don't see none of these artists, maybe a few, even speaking about Mike Brown, even putting songs out about Eric Gardner and all these other things you see because we're so far in the hole that we become comfortably numb. And when you're comfortably numb, you can get your leg chopped off. You won't even know it. And that's what's happening. That's the difference between then and now is that we're not even as artists able to look at the signs of the times and talk about it.
Mm.
There's no Marvin Gaye what's going on when he saw the Vietnam War and he said, I'm not going to sing about all this other stuff. Let me do a What's Going On album. Mercy, Mercy Me. It changed him because he saw what was going on in his world. Where's that at from some of these big rappers? Where's Jay-Z, who's rich, billionaire, making this song, talking about what he see? Or other artists. What are you at? They're not talking about nothing. Why? They wait till this stuff die down so they get back to kicking it and partying. That's what you see right now.
Well, it seems like that's what the corporations are willing to pay for. And what's
Yeah.
unfortunate is that if you make yourself a slave to the money, then you become the puppet and you are subject to the whims of the puppet master. The puppet master is the individual or the corporation that has the resources to pretty much control your every move, your whole life. And I encourage people, artists especially, to really understand just what you're trading in. When you allow somebody to control you with money, what you're doing is you're giving your most valuable resources away for a couple of dollars. I mean, your most valuable things that you have in your life are your freedom, and just your life. Period. Your youth. You've got a few years on this life to do in this life to do something meaningful. And why in the hell are you gonna let somebody convince you to spend your life doing something meaningless because they're paying you a few dollars to do it? Like I can tell you right now, you could pay me 10 million. You could offer me $10 million a year to shovel shit every morning. But I'm not gonna do it because eventually I'm gonna say I might do it for a while if I need money, but then eventually I'm gonna say, you know what, I'm gonna stop doing this because this is a meaningless endeavor. This action, this thing I'm doing right now is only meaningful because you paying me. And if you wasn't paying me, I wouldn't be doing this. So I'm gonna make enough money to do what I gotta do, and then I'm gonna go do something that's actually worth my time. You know what I'm saying? So I think artists have to really understand that. When you take your most, your greatest talent and you're creating nonsense because somebody's paying you to do it. You're not just hurting people in the process, but you're ultimately wasting your life. You're wasting your life. Now I want to go through and look at a couple of Iggy's Iggy Azalea's most interesting quotes. Now, some of these quotes, I think I got some. This is coming from Bossip, which is run by my homeboy Jamal and Martin, and these are kind of interesting. I think some of it reflects a little bit of arrogance on her part, which I think is what's turning people off. One tweet that she put out is she said, "Just remember, while you're at home online cracking jokes about artists, that most of you have done nothing with your lives." What do you think about that, Vince?
I think it's like I'm making all the money. You beneath me, and money count. Money talks. Everything else walks. And once again, she don't get that because I see Eminem wouldn't do that. See, I think Eminem is more connected. He goes out of his way. I think especially of late, to make sure he put some brothers down in Detroit and respect, like you said earlier, the forefathers of hip hop. This woman, you can tell she's not a rapper because she don't think, and by saying that type of stuff right there, is no different. You know what we say? You just mad because you mad because I'm shining. That's all that is. You mad? You're a hater. So that's what she's saying. Yeah, and this is typical. I don't expect nothing else but that type of talk from her.
Mm, wow, wow. Well, let me see that. Let me see if I can find another little tweet here from Iggy. She's interesting. She seems to. I mean, you gotta give her credit for saying what's on her mind, but I don't know how long this is gonna last.
Yep. Mm.
Oh, well, it looks like she has a lot to say about Asians, and which is interesting. But so she don't just hate black people. It seems like she dislikes Asian people too. What do you think is going to happen in the future of Iggy's career? Like, what do you think this is going to go for her?
Let's go with the typical hip hop star, even in white. She's not a lyricist like Eminem, so she can't stand the test of time. Because at the end of the day, being a lyricist, that's how you stand the test of time. At the end of the day, the ones that can still rhyme last the longest. So we don't have this comic come in before in other forms. And I think that because right now she's in a good space because she can use her sexuality, the big butt, that type stuff that's hot right now. Everybody, get butt implants and, trying to be once again like the black woman. And I think that she would probably be around as long as she can make hits, as long as hip hop says that that type of music dance music, club music or whatever, music that disrespect. As long as that's still in the forefront, I think she can last several years from now. Why? Because I think unless and then she can come back with an album where she showed that she changed, so that they got that she can always go back to being white. That's what people don't understand. She can be around, and when she be around, because it's almost like the I can't think of the lady that was in the Black Eyed Peas. It was hip hop at first, then once they started getting bigger, she left. He kind of left the Black Eyed Peas and went on her own to go ahead and do type of white music. I don't know if Iggy can sing or not, but I can see them package her later as she started to decline in hip hop and keep it dance and pop. So think about it. Look at the death of soul music. Every artist is trying to be a pop artist. They're not trying to be a soul R&B traditional. You look at the '90s. Like I tell people, I do this test with people all the time. In the '90s, you can name about 20 R&B groups. In the 2000, 2010, beyond, you can't name one new R&B group. So she'll be able to survive, but I don't know will she be big. Hip hop have to do what it normally do. It have to change. Like if you look at the whole segments when hip hop really started popping off from Run DMC to now, it shifted. It went from dancing to gangster to consciousness. It shifted. Now you would think that it would shift now because of all the things that's going on in the world. It had scares me about it. It hadn't shifted yet. You think how many people got to get killed for somebody? So you know what, man? Let's change our style. But long as the party life is going on, and now they blended with athletes and movie stars, they got what they wanted. They all meshed that together, and it's hard to recognize it to target it out to shoot it. So unless those people say, you know what, man, we need to do more conscious, unless one of the big dogs do something conscious shows up, then we're gonna see this for a while, at least 3, 4, 5 more years. She'll still be around because if that type of music is the music people like and still buying, then there's no way it could. The only way she's threatened any rapper like her is threatened if it goes back to something different. And Black starts saying we're gonna take back hip hop and talk about the things that going on in our lives and stuff in a way. Then it'll be hard for them to talk about their life in the hood. Even if you go gangster and that they can't talk gangster. They ain't living in this. It ain't from the streets of South Side Chicago or the projects or nothing like that. So then she won't have nothing to talk about. But long as you're partying and shaking it, doing this type of thing, she ain't going nowhere. She ain't going nowhere because they can get a Ti to give us the drop heavy 808 drop beat, and she say something on it and show her how to do it, and she'll still win. She'll still win,
Mm.
and she can have people like Ti apologize and be apologists for her. So that's how it is, man.
Well, it's funny. And I want to ask you about this, and then I'm gonna let you get back to your busy day, man. You had this situation where Iggy was with Ti and Drake in the tweet, and a picture. She took a picture and put it on Twitter, and she put me and my niggas, and Chuck D, went off and basically was describing Iggy as being part of what he calls a court plantation. I mean, that's exactly what my thoughts were. I mean, I just felt that, I would just say that the way I felt when I saw that picture was I was very disappointed in Ti in particular because I think amongst new artists or new age artists, I don't say new artists, he's not a new artist, but amongst guys say under the age of 32, he was always one of my favorites in terms of talent. I think he's extraordinarily
Yeah.
talented, and one thing I want people to understand clearly is that I don't pretend like some of the biggest artists are not talented people and that you cannot enjoy their music. I give Lil Wayne props all the time, even as I'm attacking, some of the messages that I hear in the music. I give him props because you don't sell 30, 10, 20, 30, 40 million albums without being good at what you do most of the time. You have to
Yeah.
have something that people relate to, and it's not because they're all stupid. It's because you've got
Mhm.
something going on that makes you unique, and I respect that. But after seeing Ti sitting there with Iggy, and to see this tweet, and then to see him come back and defend her, it just
Mhm.
bothered me because what it came off to me, honestly, is it came off as kind of maybe weak politics. That where he's making money from Iggy, God bless him, but there's nothing showing any sort of backbone in terms of his ability to say, I support Iggy and she's my artist, but I also respect my community. I respect this art form. I respect my people enough that I'm going to mediate, as opposed to making myself look like the slave sitting on the front of master's porch with the broom holding off the revolt.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
cannot be that self-interested, and I say that because I think you have to respect the delicate nature of Ti's position, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Ti is, he this is his, that's his meal ticket. She's his Justin Bieber. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so he's gotta, you're not gonna just throw all that away. But I think that there's a more diplomatic way he can handle it, as opposed to saying "f all of y'all." She's good the way she is. Leave her alone. What do you think about that?
I think, like I said, Ti from the South. I was raised in the South, so I understand the South mentality. I know he's making money. He's looking like, but here's the deal that I take issue with Ti. Now, I definitely respect Ti because he came from nothing to become something. So that's we always tip our hats to guys like Ti. But at the same time, he got to be like, look, man, he needs to get with her, pull her to the side. See, this is where it comes to mentoring. If he caring about her like that and she's a brand, if you're gonna stick up for that brand, mentor her. Let's say she's saying the right things, and then people are coming at her. Then you got a better argument. Like, look, she's not doing that to disrespect the culture. She's doing her thing, and this is what's popular in the culture. It sounds much better if he show her how to do sound bites. Train. It's like what you do when you train a athlete to speak when the mic comes on. No matter what you are, he ain't doing that. So where's that South for you to say, no, no, you can't be talking like that. Now, because at the end of the day, I enjoy the money, but you ain't gonna diss where I know by being from the South, where he know where racism comes from. He know the struggles of living in the South. If anybody from the South can lie and say they don't know the struggle, they ain't never seen racism up front, they tell a damn lie. So he knows this, and to not sit there and just let it happen, or talk to Snoop about it when Snoop said something about Iggy and they worked it out. You can't do that, man. Yeah, we all bosses, and so to speak. But if you're a boss for real, then you tell her you need to stand down on this right here. Not that she can't do her music, because that's what black people like, that type of music. So there it is. But you got to watch what you say about my culture.
Mm.
And guess what? She either respect it or leave. And if she leaves, then she leaves. Well, you're gonna let all the money go away. But at what expense? Ti. So my thing is, you need to at least teach her how to do sound bites. Don't tweak like that. It's like being a manager of an athlete, or saying, "Yo, don't put that out there, man, because they're gonna use it against you." Even if you want to take that stance, but he ain't doing none of that. For what we can see, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Obviously, she's tweeting bullcrap, so he ain't did nothing yet. And to me, that just shows why people are indifferent, because they can look back and say, you worried about what I say, but look at the people around her who are black. They ain't got no problem. So if my circle ain't got no problem, then I ain't thinking about what your problem is.
So it almost sounds like you're saying, and I agree with you on this. If that's what you're saying, that he's kind of enabling her. He's letting her kind of run around like a little spoiled brat, and he's looking like the parent who can't control his child, right? Like that's
He's
this,
trying to
you
clean up
got this.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, you got this young kid, basically. That's what she. I mean,
Yeah.
what, she like 23,
Yeah.
22, right? And you can forgive her for being a little ignorant. She's still learning, but you can't forgive Ti, who's supposed to be the mentor, for not showing some sort of resolve in terms of standing up and saying, like, okay, look, this is my artist, and she's still growing, she's still learning. I'm gonna protect her, but then also saying to her, look, you have to respect the game. You can't just walk in
Yeah, I need
and,
to
and
lay that
pissing
pimp
all over
hand down.
everybody. Yeah, what you say?
Lay that pimp hand down.
A
Better lay
little
that
bit,
pimp hand down.
a little bit. I mean, or something, or something. I mean, I think, yeah, I think Ti's, I think his reputation is taking a hit from this. I think he's kind of looking a little bit like CeeLo after Goody Mob. you know,
Hey, I put those songs out, man. See, one thing about the lower tier rappers, we don't get the respect of what we put out. I put a song called "Could It All Be So False" and talked about the who's that peeping in my window. Nobody now. Why? Because ain't nobody peeping. Because look what CeeLo was doing. I'm glad he's back, doing his thing, and hopefully back to understanding that this industry don't love you. Get back to what the CeeLo we know from Goody Mall. We know that CeeLo. I don't know this other CeeLo. And the same thing with Ti. I just hope that he, gets back to business in hand, understand that he's a phenomenal artist. But me, I'm one of those artists that I don't bojangle and care about what about T.I.'s feelings. Wrong is wrong, and I think on this one, partner, you need to lay your pimp hand down. That's all I'm gonna say about it.
Okay.
Vigilante.
All right. Well, Vigilante has laid the pimp hand down on this interview. You did a great job, man. I enjoy talking to you all the time. I always call you the hip hopologist because you are a professor on the history of hip hop. I mean, if people want to really know, I've never met anybody else who knows every genre of music going all the way back to the 1970s and 80s. I mean, this man can tell you anything about any strand, even stuff he don't listen to. He can tell you the history of it. And so I appreciate the chance to get some of your valuable time. And now, before we finish up, tell people where they can find out more about you, maybe get in touch with you and all that good stuff.
Okay, then go to therealvigilante.com. The Real Vigilante, Vigilante spelled VIGALANTEE.com. They can find me there or Twitter at Vigilante, VIGALANTE.com. And they can find me there, man, pretty much. Or, and that's my main thing is to stay positive. Not that you can't do other grown folks' music, but let's be respectful to understand what's going on with Eric Gardner and the things. And here, what I'm trying to do is not only let my lyrics speak, but my action, what I do in the community speaks, man, because our kids are watching this. And when we're old, sitting around, these same kids that you let run wild gonna be rolling your butt down the hill at the old folks home. So we need to be smart and start planting seeds now. So down the road, we all, as a people, can reap a fruitful harvest.
All right. Now, what's the name of your most recent album project?
The album I'm gonna reload it. It's called "A Nobody That Tried to Be Somebody's Nobody." And that's the thing. It's a kick to that. Is we all nobodies, but look what we do. We try to be somebody's nobody. Because when you're trying to be somebody to somebody that don't love you, you still a nobody. No matter how much money you make, you still a nobody to them.
Mm. Well, that's another thing that he does very well. He's excellent with wordplay and excellent with analogies and visuals and that's one of the things I respect the most about you, among many things. So thank you very much, Vigilante. I appreciate your time. And everybody who's watching, thank you for checking us out. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins. I'm reporting for Ball Sports. Ball Sports stands for Brothers on Sports and Society, and it is where black men control the conversation. So remember that you always can be a boss. So until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.